All right, good evening, everybody. This thing on? Okay. So we have another question from Quora. It says, can Orthodox Jews point to any benefit they gain in this world by following their traditions? I think from most of the world religions, Orthodox Judaism, by following it strictly, is one of the most worldly, certainly the most worldly of the Abrahamic traditions than there are of really any other religion. It's a world positive religion. It's even, dare I say, positive for other things that the world likes to talk about being positive for. People on the, who are very identified with this world. They like to be very positive about certain things. Out of modesty, maybe I won't, because I don't know if there are children watching this, but if it's blank positive, you might know, adults might know this term. Judaism is that, even if we want to protect our children right now and not, maybe talk about certain things that are just for adults. But it's a very positive, world-oriented religion. The major difference, I would say, of the Torah over other religious texts is that the reward and punishment mentioned in the Torah is not in the afterlife. Even though we do believe in an afterlife, we do believe in reward and punishment in the afterlife, which I guess you could colloquially call heaven and hell. I don't have a problem saying that we believe in heaven and hell. Even though people on the left, I guess, try to claim that we don't. Nonetheless, that's not what's most important, and that's not where the Torah mentions the reward and punishment. When the Torah talks about reward and punishment, or reward and correction, or even reward might not even be the right word either, it talks about the rain falling or not falling. It talks about the crops growing or failing. It talks about exile. It talks about material success. Material success as a reward for obedience, and material damage as a punishment for disobedience. Now, our later traditions, our later books might talk about heaven and hell, but the main focus of our written scripture is this world, even as far as eschatologically and in an afterlife. We are looking forward to an afterlife with a bodily resurrection. So this is a faith that is very much, it's not earth-based in the pagan sense, because we worship God, but our God is the God of heaven and earth. He's not just up somewhere far away in heaven, but he fills all worlds and surrounds all worlds. He's just as much here as anywhere else. It's just the manifestation of holiness, of his presence, might be felt more or less in more places, in some places and other places, but in his essence, he is everywhere. And there's no place empty of him. That's a very famous Kabbalistic statement, mystical statement, that there's no place empty of him, empty of God. And in the Bible it says, in Isaiah, the whole earth is full of his glory. It doesn't say the whole universe, even though that's also true, but the whole earth is full of his glory. The glory of God is here on earth, just as much as it is in the heavens and the heavens of heavens. He's not only here on earth, like some of the pantheists might imagine, that he's only in this realm. That's what it means. He surrounds all worlds. He also fills all worlds. He is here. And with that being said, so what about our particular traditions that are peculiar, but not that different than traditions that other religions enjoy? The big thing I would say is that when we look at these traditions, there is a tremendous amount of satisfaction. And not only that, but some of our, even we would say, man-made traditions that we have, certainly man-made, but we believe in some way are inspired by God, are a lot of fun. It's a very fun religion. I work in interfaith work as a chaplain, and I know we have a group of men who joined. They all grew up Christian, most of them particularly Catholic, and they joined a pagan group, neo-pagan group, and I have to show them videos. I don't have to, but we do. We're encouraged to do so, and we download videos from YouTube and put them onto the inmate channel, and I put them on DVDs and burn DVDs and show them, and I have to watch these videos to make sure they're appropriate. And so from one of these pagan religions, they said, this is a very fun religion, because there's drinking and there's music and there's dancing and there's a lot of fun things in the religion. Coming from what they understand the austere strictness of Catholicism, which Catholicism isn't really as strict as people imagine, and it's not as austere as people imagine. People who are actually, you meet Catholic priests and nuns and certainly deacons and religious lay people. They're not these miserable people who are held back from enjoying the world. The truth is, with all of these religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, these religions are really guiding us how to enjoy the world. And by sometimes holding back, sometimes abstaining, we wind up enjoying the world much better because we don't get overindulged. So the classical example, again, is maybe something not for children. This is an adult discussion. But one of the things that a lot of people outside of our community find strange, even though they have similar rules in Islam and in other religions, and it's funny how you'll have Jews who are like, oh, we have to respect Muslims so much, but these Orthodox Jews who live not that different than how Muslims live, oh, they're the weirdos. They're embarrassment to Jews and this and that. That's how left-wing people who identify as Jewish often look at us. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Particularly if they're more left-wing. If they're just, not particularly religious, but not ideologically so, they don't have that bigotry. But when they're very ideologically driven to hate us and to hate God and hate religion, that's a big thing that they focus on. And unfortunately, that's a large amount, if not the majority, of people who identify as Jewish. It's a very strange type of situation that we have here. In any event, the point that I want to bring out here with this discussion is that, how does holding back, how does abstaining help one gain in this world? And so there's one of the laws that are very important in Orthodox Judaism are the laws of Nida. That when a woman has her period, husband and wife don't touch until after she finishes the period. She has to count 7 clean days and immerse in a mikveh. And to people hearing about that, that sounds like, what is this, some kind of taboo? What's going on here? What's this all about? And does it mean that women are being disrespected? That's how a lot of people on the left like to interpret that. But let's just see what the Talmud says about it. The Talmud says that, essentially, to paraphrase, to use a modern term, there's a saying in the West: familiarity breeds contempt, right? And so therefore, by holding back for 7 days, it's usually about 11 days, 12 days, it keeps things fresh, keeps things new. You don't get bored. You don't get, that's the ideal of it. That's the material, physical benefit, even if it's an emotional or psychological benefit, that it brings more enjoyment physically into a married couple's life. And I've heard that even in the secular world or in the Christian world, people have been starting to practice similar types of things for that reason. That it's something to help make the marriage more cohesive. But it could even be looked at as somewhat of a hedonistic thing. That we, the point is to have more pleasure. That you hold back with that goal of, if you hold back for a certain amount of time, then you gain that pleasure that other people in the world might not have. That by sensitizing yourself, removing the desensitizing, it helps a person to enjoy. And the same thing, fasting. When you finish a fast, not only whatever the physical and health benefits that might come from fasting that a lot of people are discussing nowadays, but when one comes out of the fast, there's a tremendous amount of pleasure that you don't have, through gluttony. The enjoyment that you have after abstaining, of indulging, is quite an enjoyable thing in this world. But then beyond that, like I said, we have holidays and special days that are just a lot of fun. Purim and Simchas Torah, they're a lot of fun. It's a fun party, but it's a party together with God. So it's, we're eating, we're drinking, even getting drunk. We don't have a taboo against that. And yet, interestingly, although there certainly is alcoholism in the Jewish community, including in the Orthodox Jewish community, we won't say that there is no alcoholism in our community. In general, it tends to be much less than in other communities. And I think part of it is, again, because it is a religion that views these things as positively and only is saying, really nothing in the religion is really saying necessarily against drinking alcohol. It's just there's some warnings against drunkenness because that can lead to sin, the dangers of drunkenness that one should avoid. But once in a while, it's not the end of the world. And not only that, but it might even be a little bit encouraged, but encouraged in a way that we hope and pray does not lead to any damage. It does sometimes happen. But nonetheless, for the most part, it's a very happy world positive, materialistic positive religion, and that's all that there is to it. But we do believe, that our rewards and punishments, in addition to what's in the afterlife, that's almost secondary. The afterlife is really only there to explain why bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. That's really why we have teachings of an afterlife. But as far as in the day-to-day world, we do believe, even though it might seem counterintuitive, right, to keep the Sabbath. A person that is in business, and maybe, their whole business is on Saturday. And yet, we believe that people are blessed because of keeping the Sabbath. God blesses people for keeping the Sabbath. And not only that, but there could be punishment for not keeping the Sabbath. Someone, they think they're going to make money working on Saturday, a Jewish person, even though we don't believe that that's required or even encouraged for other people, but for our people, we don't we don't handle money or anything. We don't do business, and people who violate that, they could be punished in other ways. They could have medical bills or car accidents or whatever else. God forbid. We pray it shouldn't happen. It doesn't always happen right away. But people have seen it in their lives that they started to keep the Sabbath, and their finances got better. And the Sabbath itself is a very enjoyable time. Yes, we spend maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours in the synagogue, which isn't not enjoyable. A lot of people enjoy that time. But after that we eat food, and then we come home and eat food. We eat and drink and be merry. Spend time with our families, and not with the distractions of the phones and all these other things. Even though maybe from the actual Jewish law, there's nothing wrong necessarily using these electronic devices, but it's nice to have a break and to focus on better things, other things in life, and not be inundated with the phone ringing and the texts and everything else. And most people say that it is an actual violation of Jewish law to use these things, but there are different opinions on that, although we follow the majority. So all of these things point to that it's actually quite enjoyable and beneficial to live this lifestyle. I remember hearing that there was a study that basically said that the happiest people with which religion are the happiest people are the Orthodox Jews. And they said there was they had all of these different attributes of happiness. It was reported, I think, in the New York Times that these various factors lead to happiness. And they were living in Hawaii, being a male over 50 years old, being a millionaire, and being an Orthodox Jew, and maybe some others. And they found one fellow. He was a Hawaiian fellow converted to Judaism, and he's Orthodox. And he he was labeled, and he was a millionaire, and he was over 50 years old, and the New York Times went and interviewed him. They said, according to this study, you should be the happiest person in the world. He said, yeah, I'm pretty happy. Some people complain to him, how can you say, some secular so-called Jews, they say, how can you say that you're happy? Jews suffered, they had the Holocaust, because to the seculars, that's all they think about is the Holocaust, the anti-Semitism, and all the suffering. They're obsessed. It's their idol. They've fetishized anti-Semitism on the left. To us, we're not. That's not even on our radar. We're not obsessed with these things. We're thinking about, enjoying life, and part of that enjoyment is studying Torah, and keeping mitzvos. It's and praying, and it's very, very satisfying. I remember some years ago when I was maybe not as open-minded, and I remember seeing an interview on television with Newt Gingrich. He should be well. Wish him all the best. And at that time, he had just converted to Catholicism because he married a woman, Calista, who was Catholic. And it's his wife now. And he said, he found a lot of satisfaction in taking the communion in the Catholic Church. And this I heard years ago, so I was talking to my coworker who's a Catholic deacon, and I said, isn't that a little selfish that you're taking communion for your own enjoyment? The satisfaction that you shouldn't just be, like we would say, Bilti Lashem Levado, that you're giving this only to God. And he said, no, it is satisfying, to know that you've kept yourself, you followed the rules, and you're, you made the confession or whatever, and now you're ready to take communion. It is a satisfying experience for him as a Catholic. And I think the difference is, to be honest, even though, again, I was talking about sensory overload, the Catholic, all right, maybe he should be well, and I wish the Catholics well. I'm not, my father was Catholic, my mother's Jewish. My father, for a while, he went to Mass every day. He went to Catholic school, and he attended Mass every day. And when he saw me becoming frum, he said, oh, he's taking after me. He said, I did that for 1 year, and it'll be a phase, and he'll get over it. So, so let's say you go to Mass every day. So you have that one time. By us, we are communing with God 24/7. Even when we're sleeping, we're supposed to always be with God. And the truth is, I'll tell you something. Even when sometimes we make mistakes, the satisfaction of knowing that God is with us and God loves us, that's also it's also there. We're 24/7 in communion with God. So, and that's very satisfying. Both that's satisfying spiritually, emotionally, and even physically. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and we'll see you later.